Hello Math 7. I hope your last video worked well for you and was helpful. Today we're going to be going over your lesson 74 in your book. So today's lesson is teaching you how to write fractions as decimals. So for example, we have the fraction 1/2, or you can say 1/2. But this sign here also means divide right here. So you can also read this as 1 divided by 2. So to turn a fraction into a decimal, you simply have to divide. What you have to be careful about, though, is where you put the 1. Always write it in the order you read it. I'll repeat that. Always write it in the order you read it. So you'd write it as 1 divided by 2. So this is how we would write it. 1 divided by 2. Did you see that? 1 divided by 2. So how do we do this? Well, you just do your division. Can 2 go into 1? No, it cannot. 2 is bigger than 1. So we put a 0 up there, and we add a decimal. Then we add the decimal here. You bring the decimal up, and you add a 0. Now, can 2 go into 10? Yes, it can. 5 times. 2 times 5 is 10. We subtract, we get 0. So 1/2 as a decimal is 0.5. Some of you probably knew that, and that's great. Let's do another common one that you probably know. Let's do 1 divided by 4. Remember, write it down in the order you read it. So we're going to write it as 1 divided by 4. Can 4 go into 1? No, it cannot. 0 times. So we put a decimal, and we put a decimal. You can extend this line out, and you add another 0. Can 4 go into 10? Yes, it can. 2 times. 4 times 2 is 8. Now we subtract. 10 minus 8 is 2. Add another 0 and bring that 0 down. Can 4 go into 20? Yes, it can. 5 times evenly. 4 times 5 is 20. Subtract it, you get 0. So 1/4 equals 0.25. All right, moving on. Let's do a little bit more difficult. Let's say we have 7 2/5, and they want you to write 7 2/5 as a decimal. Now we already know that 7 is going to be the whole number, so when we're writing our decimal, it's going to be 7 point whatever. So you can write that first if you want, or you can write it later. I would write it first so you don't forget it later. So we have 7 point. But now we need to find our decimal, which is the fraction. So we read it as 2 divided by 5. So we write it as 2 divided by 5. Can 5 go into 2? No, it cannot. You put a 0 there. Add your decimals. Add a 0. Can 5 go into 20? Yes, it can. 4 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract it. It goes in evenly. And then we add our 0.4 to the 7. So 7 2/5 is equal to 7.4. One more. Let's do 3 3/4. First of all, we're going to write our 3 point something. And now we can find our decimal by dividing 3 from 4. So 3 divided by 4 is written as 3 divided by 4. Can 4 go into 3? No, it cannot. 0 times. Add your decimals. Add a 0. Can 4 go into 30? Yes, it can. How many times? 7. 4 times 7 is 28. 10 minus 8 is 2. Add another 0, bring it down. Can 4 go into 20? Yes, it can. 5 times evenly. 4 times 5 is 20. So this is our decimal portion of it, and we put it behind the 3 in the decimal, and that is your answer. All right, good luck with this assignment. Let me know if you have any questions.